Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop.
Large blood vessels of the gut. Introduction. The three ventral branches of the abdominal aorta are coeliac trunk, superior mesenteric and inferior mesenteric arteries. These are the arteries of the foregut, midgut, and hindgut, respectively. There is anastomoses between the branches of these three main arteries. In this chapter the coeliac trunk, the superior and inferior mesenteric vessels, and the portal vein will be studied. Blood vessels identify the short trunk of coeliac axis artery at the level of the intervertebral disc between T12 and L1 vertebrae arising from the aorta. Dissect its relations especially with the coeliac ganglion and identify its three branches and their further divisions. Clean the superior mesenteric vessels with its branches both from its right and left surfaces. Dissect these branches and trace them till the organs of their supply. Identify the inferior mesenteric artery arising at the L3 vertebra. Trace its course and branches. Identify the large portal vein formed by the union of superior mesenteric and splenic vein posterior to the neck of pancreas. Trace it upwards towards the remains of free margin of lesser omentum till the porta hepatis where it divides into two branches. Identify the veins taking part in portosystemic anastomoses. Coeliac trunk. The coeliac trunk is the artery of the foregut. It supplies all derivatives of the foregut that lie in the abdomen, namely, 1. The lower end of the esophagus, the stomach, and upper part of the duodenum up to the opening of the bile duct. 2. Liver. 3. Spleen. 4. Greater part of the pancreas. Origin and length. The coeliac trunk arises from the front of the abdominal aorta just below the aortic opening of the diaphragm at the level of the disc between thoracic 12 and first lumbar vertebrae. The trunk is only about 1.25 centimeters long. It ends by dividing into its three terminal branches, namely the left gastric, common hepatic, and splenic arteries. Relations: 1. It is surrounded by the coeliac plexus of nerves. Anteriorly, it is related to the lesser SAE and to the lesser omentum. 3. To its right, there are the right crus of the diaphragm, the right coeliac ganglion and the caudate process of the liver. 4. To its left, there are the left crus of the diaphragm, the left coeliac ganglion and the cardiac end of the stomach. Inferiorly, it is related to the body of the pancreas and to the splenic vein. Branches: left gastric artery. The smallest of three branches of the coeliac trunk. It runs upwards to the left behind the lesser sac to reach the cardiac end of the stomach where it turns forwards and enters the lesser omentum to run downwards along the lesser curvature of the stomach. It ends by anastomosing with the right gastric artery. It gives off, 2 or 3 esophageal branches at the cardiac end of the stomach. B. Numerous gastric branches along the lesser curvature of the stomach, Fig 21.4. Common hepatic artery. The common hepatic artery runs downwards, forwards, and to the right, behind the lesser sac to reach the upper border of the duodenum. Here it enters the lesser omentum. It then run upwards as proper hepatic artery in the right free margin of the lesser omentum, in front of the portal vein, and to the left of the bile duct. Reaching the porta hepatis it terminates by dividing into right and left hepatic branches. Branches: 1. The gastroduodenal artery is a large branch which arises at the upper border of the first part of the duodenum. The part of the hepatic artery till the origin of the gastroduodenal artery is called the common hepatic artery. The part distal to it is the proper hepatic artery. The gastroduodenal artery runs downwards behind the first part of the duodenum and divides at its lower border into the right gastroepiploic and superior pancreaticoduodenal arteries. The right gastroepiploic artery enters the greater omentum, follows the greater curvature of the stomach, and anastomoses with the left gastroepiploic artery. The superior pancreaticoduodenal artery, often represented by two arteries anterior and posterior, runs downwards in the pancreaticoduodenal groove, and ends by anastomosing with the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery, a branch of the superior mesenteric. 2. The right gastric artery is a small branch which arises from the proper hepatic artery close to the gastroduodenal artery. It runs to the left along the lesser curvature and ends by anastomosing with the left gastric artery. 3. The cystic artery is a branch of the right hepatic artery. It passes behind the common hepatic and cystic ducts to reach the upper surface of the neck of the gallbladder, where it divides into superficial and deep branches for the inferior and superior surfaces of the gallbladder, respectively. Splenic artery. The splenic artery is the largest branch of the coeliac trunk. It runs horizontally to the left along the upper border of the pancreas behind the lesser sac. It crosses the left suprarenal gland and the upper part of the left kidney to enter the lienorenal ligament, through which it reaches the hilum of spleen, where it divides into 5 to 7 splenic branches. Branches. It gives off the following branches: 1. Numerous pancreatic branches which supply the body and tail of the pancreas. One of the branches to the body of the pancreas is large and is known as the arteria pancreatica magna. Another large branch to the tail is known as the arteria caudi pancreatis. These large arteries anastomose, on the back of the pancreas, with the left branch of a dorsal artery which may arise from one of the following arteries: superior mesenteric, middle colic, hepatic, or coeliac. 2. 5 to 7 short gastric arteries arise from the terminal part of the splenic artery, run in the gastrosplenic ligament, and supply the fundus of the stomach. 3. The left gastroepiploic artery also arises from the terminal part of the splenic artery, runs downwards in the greater omentum, follows the greater curvature of the stomach, and ends by anastomosing with the right gastroepiploic artery. As the name suggests, the gastroepiploic arteries supply both the stomach and greater omentum. Superior mesenteric artery. The superior mesenteric artery is the artery of the midgut. It supplies all derivatives of the midgut, namely, 1. Lower part of the duodenum below the opening of the bile duct. 2. Jejunum. 3. Ileum. 4. Appendix. 5. Cecum. 6. Ascending colon. 7. Right 2/3 of 8. The head of the pancreas. Origin, course, and termination. The superior mesenteric artery arises from the front of the abdominal aorta, behind the body of the pancreas, at the level of vertebrae, 1 cm below the coeliac trunk, Fig 21.5. It runs downwards and to the right, forming a curve with its convexity towards the left. At its origin it lies first behind the body of the pancreas and then in front of the uncinate process. Next it crosses the third part of the duodenum, enters the root of mesentery, and runs between its two layers. It terminates in the right iliac fossa by anastomosing with a branch of the iliacolic artery. Relations above the root of the mesentery: 1. Anteriorly it is related to the body of the pancreas and to the splenic vein. 1. Posteriorly, to the aorta, the left renal vein, the uncinate process and the third part of the duodenum. Within the root of the mesentery, it crosses the inferior vena cava, and the right psoas. Throughout its course it is accompanied by the superior branches. The superior mesenteric artery gives off 5 sets of branches both from its right and left sides. 1. Those arising from its right side: A. Inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. B. Middle colica artery. C. Right colic artery. D. Ileocolic artery. 2. Those arising from its left side are 12 to 15 renal and ileal branches. Inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. Inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery arises from the superior mesenteric artery at the upper border of the third part of the duodenum. The artery soon divides into anterior and posterior branches which run in the pancreaticoduodenal groove, supply the head of the pancreas and the duodenum, and ends by anastomosing with the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. Middle colic artery. Middle colic artery arises from the right side of the superior mesenteric artery just below the pancreas. It runs downwards and forwards in the transverse mesocolon. It divides into a right branch, which anastomoses with the right colic artery, and a left branch, which anastomoses with the left colic artery. Further branches arising from these, form arcades and supply the transverse colon. Right coeliac artery. Right coeliac artery arises near the middle of the concavity of the superior mesenteric artery. It passes to the right behind the peritoneum, and at the upper part of the ascending colon it divides into a descending branch, which anastomoses with the iliacoelic artery, and an ascending branch, which anastomoses with the middle coeliac artery. The branches form an arch, from the convexity of which smaller branches are distributed to the upper two-thirds of the ascending colon and the right flexure of the colon. Iliacoelic artery. Iliacoelic artery arises from the right side of the superior mesenteric artery. It runs downwards and to the right, and divides into superior and inferior branches. The superior branch anastomoses with the right coeliac artery, and the inferior branch anastomoses with the termination of the superior mesenteric artery. The inferior branch of the iliacoelic artery gives off, an ascending coeliac branch to the ascending colon. Anterior and posterior cecal branches to the cecum. An appendicular branch which passes behind the ilium and reaches the appendix through its mesentery, see Fig 20.26. B. The ileal branch to the terminal portion of the ilium. Jejunal and ileal branches. Jejunal and ileal branches are about 12 to 15 in number and arise from the left side of the superior mesenteric artery. They run between the two layers of the